As I always say in our previous videos, almost 80% of the ocean has not yet been explored by humans, and scientists are afraid to examine the depths. But why is that? Just think about a place that's even more mysterious than outer space. A world beneath the sea where light slowly disappears, and the creatures in the depths seem like they're from another planet. Here, every layer or meter of depth holds a new discovery and story. There are squids here as long as a bus, and there are also creatures that create their own light to survive in the darkness. In this video, we will dive into the secrets of the deep sea. It's a journey that will show how mysterious and terrifying the true nature of our ocean is. But before we start, don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel. This is a big help for us controllers. Then, Creator, thank you very much, and now let's begin. The deceptive face of the sea. At first glance, the sea looks simple and peaceful. The small waves are waving, the sun sparkles on the surface of the water, and the seabirds fly as if watching over from above. But don't be fooled, because what we see on the surface is just a beautiful illusion. Let's dive in. This is called the Epipelagic zone, or the first 200 meters of the ocean. In this part, light can reach. Temperatures can reach nearly 97 degrees Fahrenheit. It's like a comfortable tropical paradise. Beneath it, colorful coral reefs flourish like an underwater garden. Meanwhile, familiar fish like tuna and mackerel swim freely here. This is because this water is still reached by sunlight. Marine biologists usually start their studies here. The risks aren't that high in this area. The types of life found here are still well understood. Usually they just wear simple scuba gear here, where their biggest concerns are getting pricked by a sea urchin or getting lost in a strong current. But everything changes when they're ready to dive into the deeper parts of the sea. The briefings before the mission get longer, the equipment becomes more complicated, and even the insurance forms increase. And most importantly, the tone of the veteran scientists also changes. It's not just excitement they feel anymore, but you can clearly sense some nervousness as well. Honestly, the shallow part of the sea is just like a training ground, because the real ocean, which covers 99% of the space of all life on Earth, is found in the deep. In that world, you'll see things that are entirely different. Going down almost 200 meters from the surface, the sunlight begins to say goodbye. We are now in the Mesopelagic zone, which reaches depths of up to 1,000 meters. This is called the Twilight zone because here, the light gradually disappears, and the sea becomes a strange world that is no longer as comfortable as it is on the surface. Here, the temperature drops sharply because of the thermocline. It's like a wall under the sea. And this is also where scientists are first surprised. Almost 90% of all marine life lives here. Billions of creatures can be found here. And in fact, this is the largest migration of any animal on Earth. But it was only recently that we truly discovered the vastness of this ecosystem. The creatures here look like something out of science fiction. Fish develop large eyes to catch the last traces of sunlight. Others use bioluminescence. They create their own light as a weapon in their struggle for survival. It's like a fireworks show under the sea, but with a deeper purpose that we're only beginning to understand. One example is the vampire squid. Despite its name, it doesn't drink blood. Instead, it can turn itself inside out when it's in. It shows its spines like a monster from a nightmare. But this is just the beginning. In the Twilight Zone, scientists are quickly learning that the creatures here have their own rules. The pressure here is 100 times greater than at the surface. And despite this, animals continue to live and thrive here as if surpassing all the limits of life on our planet. And the most unique thing, isn't it intriguing to think about what might be waiting even deeper than this? The kingdom of eternal darkness. When we reach a depth of 1,000 meters, we enter the Epipelagic zone, or more commonly known as the Midnight Zone. Here, all sunlight completely disappears and the true face of the deep sea begins. The temperature here remains at around 39 degrees Fahrenheit, while the pressure reaches levels that can crush the human body in just a few microseconds. This is also the point where scientists' equipment often breaks down. The midnight zone extends up to 4,000 meters, a vertical range that's even greater than most mountains on land. To put it into perspective, imagine stacking the Empire State Building 11 times. Even at that height, you still wouldn't reach the very bottom of the midnight zone. In this realm, you'll encounter creatures with such extreme adaptations they're nearly unbelievable. One is the anglerface. A particular species known as the Black Sea Monster uses its own light as bait to catch prey in the dark ocean. But their way of reproducing is even more terrifying. Male anglerfish are much smaller compared to the females. Sometimes they're hundreds of times smaller. To survive, they need to attach themselves and literally fuse with the female's body. They gradually become a part of their mate. Their eyes, fins, and most of their internal organs disappear until they become like a parasitic extension whose only purpose is to provide sperm. In this darkness where food is so scarce, finding a mate is like a gamble between life and death. The males who can't find a female die of hunger. Those who are lucky enough to find one give up their freedom forever in exchange for becoming a husband. It's like a story from science fiction, but it's true. Aside from this, what they call deep-sea gigantism also prevails. Because of the extreme cold, the metabolism of animals slows down, so they live longer and grow larger than their counterparts in shallow waters. The squids here can grow as long as a school bus. The colossal squid, which can weigh up to 1,200 pounds, is one of the largest invertebrates in the world. But they are extremely rare, rarely seen. Most of what we know comes from carcasses that washed ashore or were found in the stomachs of whales. The pressure here is more than 5,850 pounds per square inch. It's even more intense than the vacuum of space. Anyone who ends up here without protection will experience what researchers call barotrauma, a terrifying force that will crush the body before you even feel the pain. Although humans can't survive here, some creatures naturally dive to these depths. The sperm whale dives here to hunt, able to hold its breath for almost 45 minutes and battling the monsters of the deep. Their ribs are attached to flexible cartilage. That's why they can return their chest to normal without breaking anything. For the scientists who come down here, the midnight zone serves as a powerful reminder. Humans are just visitors here, in a world that isn't really meant for people. Every mission feels like a gamble between life and death. The submarines used here must withstand forces even greater than those experienced by spacecraft during re-entry into the atmosphere. That's why they're equipped with numerous backup systems, plenty of life support, extra power sources, ballast systems, and communication devices, all with a single purpose: to keep people alive in a place that's eager to crush them. But even this kingdom of darkness and pressure is just a middle layer of the sea, because beneath it, something even more terrifying awaits. The abyss calls. Beyond 4,000 meters, we enter the Epipelagic zone, or more commonly known as the abyss. This comes from the Greek word meaning bottomless, because ancient sailors once believed the sea was endless. In some ways, maybe it would be better if they were right, because what modern science has discovered in these depths has completely shaken our understanding of how much life can endure. The abyss reaches depths of up to 6,000 meters. It covers 3/4 of the ocean floor. The pressure here exceeds 11,000 pounds per square inch. That's equivalent to the weight of 200 elephants pressing down on every inch of surface at the same time. To better understand, imagine a styrofoam cup. If you lower it here, in just a few seconds it will be crushed until it's as small as a thimble. Meanwhile, the temperature is almost freezing. It's about 39 degrees Fahrenheit, and no sunlight has reached this place for millions of years. Darkness here is normal. It's not like an ordinary night on the surface where our eyes can still adjust. This is complete absence of light since these waters were formed. And despite this, life still thrives here, and they're not just surviving. The creatures here are thriving in ways that seem to defy the laws of physics. Take the Dumbo octopus, for example. It no longer has an ink sac because there's no light to hide from. It's one of the deepest dwelling types of octopus, yet it still has an almost innocent appearance, like a toy dropped into a terrifying world. On the abyssal floor, you can also find strange creatures like sea pigs. They look like floating balloons, but they're important to the ecosystem. Because they clean up organic matter that comes from above, they move together almost like an army. They follow chemicals in the water as they travel for hundreds of miles. There's also the tripod fish, which has 3 long fins that allow it to stand on the seafloor like a tripod. This unusual strategy is to save energy. They stay in position for a long time, just waiting for food to be brought by the current. Sometimes they don't move for hours, days, or even weeks. They wait without wasting any energy. But the most unique sight here is the hydrothermal vents. They're like oases in the middle of the darkness. Here, water gushes out with heat reaching up to 700 degrees Fahrenheit, hot enough to melt lead. It's full of toxins like hydrogen sulfide and heavy metals, which are deadly to all forms of life. But around these, a whole ecosystem forms that's not based on sunlight, but on chemosynthesis. Here you can find giant tube worms that reach up to 8 feet tall, standing like a strange forest of white tubes. They have no mouth, stomach, or digestive system. Instead, they harbor billions of bacteria inside their bodies. These bacteria make food for them. The Yeti crab, which was only discovered in 2000, and they have hair on their claws where they actually cultivate bacteria that serve as their food. Pompeii worms, on the other hand, live right in the boiling water at the mouth of the vents. Their backs are exposed to heat that can boil coffee, while their heads are in the colder part, so they can survive. Because of this, scientists were forced to re-examine the most basic foundations of life. And this also raised a chilling question. If creatures can survive in these kinds of conditions, it's possible they can do it anywhere in the universe, wherever there is water and chemicals that serve as sources of energy. Descending into the hell of the deep at a depth of 6,000 meters, we are now entering the Hadal zone, named after Hades, the god of the underworld in Greek mythology. These are the deepest trenches of the sea, fissures on the surface of the earth, seemingly bottomless in their depths, and the creatures that live there seem like nightmares to the scientists who try to explore them. The unexplored corners of the planet. The Hadal zone extends all the way to the deepest parts of the ocean. The Mariana Trench with a depth of 10,674 meters. To help you picture it, imagine moving Mount Everest to the bottom of the Mariana Trench. Even its peak would still be submerged more than a mile below the sea. The pressure here is over 1,100 times stronger than at sea level, more than 16,000 pounds per square inch. It's like thousands of elephants pressing down from above. These trenches are formed when tectonic plates collide. That's why the Hadal zone is one of the most geologically active regions. The Peru-Chile Trench stretches over 3,000 meters along South America's coast. The Japan Trench, where the 2011 tsunami began, drops more than 9,000 meters. Meanwhile, the Puerto Rico Trench in the Atlantic reaches depths of up to 8,600 meters. And what's even more alarming is that these trenches continue to get deeper as the cross plates push each other down into the Earth's mantle. To this day, only 3 people in all of history have reached this deepest point of the ocean. In comparison, dozens have already walked on the moon. And it's not because we lack the technology. It's because the sea itself actively prevents humans from going there. Space is a vacuum, yes, but it doesn't try to crush you as you go deeper. In 1960, Don Walsh and Jacques Piccard were the first to descend into the Challenger Deep using a submersible called the bathyscaphe Trieste. Its design is like a balloon filled with gasoline. It's one of the few liquids that hardly deforms even under extreme pressure. A small steel capsule was suspended underneath it, where the two men were confined during their journey to the deepest part of the world. The descent of the Trieste took 4 hours and 47 minutes. Every moment, the pressure increased, threatening to crush their vessel. At 9,000 meters, they heard a loud crack. One of the windows of their vessel broke. They were faced with a tough decision: to retreat and give up their only chance, or to continue even though there were already signs of damage to their vessel. They decided to continue. It was possible they wouldn't be able to return if the ascent systems failed. And at a depth of 10,794 meters, they reached the very bottom of the Challenger Deep. They were the first people in history to reach the deepest place on Earth. What they saw shattered all previous beliefs, even under pressure that should prevent any form of life. They saw creatures swimming near the seafloor. Upon examination, these could be sea cucumbers or other deep-sea animals, but that was enough to prove that even here, there is life. They stayed at the very bottom for 20 minutes. They witnessed a view that no other eyes had ever seen before. As they left, fine sand rose up and surrounded the area, but what they saw was enough to say that the depths of the world are not a lifeless wasteland after all. Their return took 3 hours and 15 minutes. Both of them were unsure if their damaged vessel could still make it. When they finally made it back to the surface, they had accomplished one of the most dangerous journeys in human history, deeper than anyone who had ever descended before or after, except for James Cameron in 2012 during his solo dive. And the discoveries in the Hadal zone suggest that life on Earth is more resilient and widespread than we ever imagined. But along with this comes an alarming question. If creatures can survive in the most extreme conditions on Earth, what else could be living in places we have yet to discover? Why is the deep sea feared? Why are scientists truly afraid to dive into the deepest parts of the ocean? The answer goes beyond the simple danger of accidents. The truth is already frightening enough. If equipment fails at such depths, death is almost certain. The tragedy of the Titan submersible in 2023 is a clear reminder. Even modern technology can fail and be crushed by the immense pressure of the sea. But the real fear goes deeper than the fear of mechanical failure. This is because the sea itself is the largest unexplored space on the entire planet. The map of Mars is even more detailed than the floor of our own ocean. And in these depths, there are ecosystems that may contain millions of kinds of creatures we have never seen before. It's like another planet within our own world. With every expedition, scientists discover things that can't be classified into any biological category. Animals that seem to defy the laws of physics. Ecosystems that function in ways we're only beginning to understand. With every return, they bring back data that challenges our fundamental understanding of life on Earth. And it's not just physical danger that comes with it. It also has a significant impact on the researcher's mental state. Many of them described a strange feeling, a mix of humility and fear because of the vastness of what we still don't know. Think about this. 99% of the space for all life on Earth is in the ocean. But up to now, we've truly explored less than 5% of it. And this is where the more terrifying question comes in. It's not just about what else we might discover, but about what we might have already missed. How many mass extinctions might have happened in the depths without us even knowing? How many keystone species have we yet to discover? And how many ecosystems critical to Earth's climate and chemistry are still functioning in the darkness, completely unknown to science? Alien world below. The deep sea is not just unexplored. It is literally an alien world. The creatures here live under physical and biological laws that are so different from those on the surface. It's as if they evolved on another planet. This is exactly why studying the deep sea is so thrilling for scientists. At these depths, everything about how life works changes. Gases behave differently. Chemical reactions follow a different path. And even the most basic physics of existence seems to change. That's why the animals here have been forced to come up with unique solutions to survive. Problems that creatures on the surface have never faced. Here, bioluminescence has become the primary weapon, not just to hide, but also to communicate and hunt. In the complete darkness of the sea, animals have learned to create their own light through chemical reactions. Meanwhile, deep-sea gigantism is emerging. Creatures grow beyond expectations. They reach sizes that seem impossible. But the most surprising thing is that the deep sea is directly connected to the very processes of the world itself. Hydrothermal vents are like windows from the depths of the Earth's crust. They release heat and chemicals that come from inside the planet. The seafloor here is constantly changing, being created and destroyed again by tectonic processes. That means the view itself is like an alien landscape that never stays the same. So every time scientists dive here, they're not just studying marine biology. It's like they're venturing into a place with a different set of natural laws and new possibilities for life. And yes, it's deeper than you think, both literally and figuratively, because it's so far from the world we know. The new discoveries have completely shattered our previous beliefs about the limits of life. In 2005, foraminifera were discovered at the very bottom of Challenger Deep. These are single-celled organisms that live in conditions once thought impossible for any form of life to survive. In the 1970s, ecosystems living in hydrothermal vents were also discovered. This proves that there are forms of life that do not depend on the sun. The implication: if creatures can survive in these conditions, it means this could happen anywhere else in the universe as long as there is water and a source of chemical energy. But every new discovery brings more questions than answers. How many other ecosystems exist that survive through chemosynthesis in the deep? How do deep-sea creatures travel across the entire ocean? And what role do they play in the world's climate and chemistry? Our ignorance about it is immense, and with every question, a chilling mystery surrounds us. What else could be waiting for us in the depths of the sea that we have yet to reach? And what kind of life could have formed in the most extreme corners of the earth? From mystery to a deeper conversation, the hidden mirror. During the war, sonar operators noticed that there seemed to be another floor in the middle of the sea that moved up and down depending on the time. This wasn't real land. This is what is now called the deep scattering layer. It's like a hidden mirror made up of a dense kingdom of tiny animals that rise together every night and descend every morning. This means the sea has a living clock that beats. From the surface to the depths, the creatures follow a rhythm, a silence with a quiet parade every nightfall. For us, this is important because it carries and brings carbon back to the depths. It helps in the planet's natural carbon storage. This wasn't fully explained in the earlier parts. So here, we clarify it as a living elevator of nutrients and carbon. This is the ocean's whisper. There is a layer of water where sound can travel extremely far with almost no loss. This is called the SOFAR channel. Here, animals in the sea can send whispers. Even human instruments can cross thousands of kilometers without needing a loud shout. In other words, the ocean has a highway for sound. For science, this is a way to listen to what happens in the deep, from the movement of ice to earthquakes on the deep ocean floor, all without humans needing to be there themselves. Now let's move on to marine snow. Every day, there's a drizzle of food falling from the surface. Dead microbes, tiny pieces of sea plants, shells, and waste. This is called marine snow. On its journey downward, it feeds millions of creatures, and slowly it buries carbon down to deeper levels. The effect is like the planet has a savings account where carbon is stored deep down for hundreds to thousands of years. When we disturb these layers, it's like making an early withdrawal. And now that you know that, let's talk about brine pools and cold seeps. In some places, you can see what looks like a lake under the sea. This is extremely salty and heavier water that doesn't mix with the surroundings, called brine pools. There are also cold seeps where methane and other chemicals slowly come out from the seafloor. Here, unique communities form, mussels and clams with bacteria partners inside their bodies that turn chemicals into food. The lesson is, life doesn't just come from heat deep within the earth. Even cold and chemicals can be the foundation of an entire ecosystem.